Warren, Pete in the Vet Spot on the Pat Kenny Show here on Newstalk. And now I'm going to spend 15 or 20 minutes answering some of your questions during this Facebook Live video. So if you've got any questions about your pets, please put them into the comments section below and I'll get to them in due course. Now, before we start with the questions, I just wanted to mention a little bit about the treatment of lungworm and roundworm, because I did mention that on air. And people have been texting me to say, well, you know, you mentioned we should treat them, but what should we use? Well, do you know, it's really important that you give the right treatment, because the problem is that you can buy treatment, for example, in a supermarket or pet shop that just says wormer, and when you look at the fine print, it says treats roundworms or treats tapeworms. It's very specific about what it treats. So you need to make sure you use the right product for the right worm that you're trying to control. And that's different for every animal. For example, I guess every dog should be wormed every 3 months all the time, and you need to use a product that treats for roundworms. And so, yes, you can get products at pet shops and supermarkets and all sorts of places that do exactly that. Lungworm is different. For lungworm, you have to use a particular product that is effective against lungworm. And the only products that are available at the moment are prescription-only products, which means that you have to buy them from your vet. And there's two versions. There's a tablet and there's a spot-on product. Now, if your dog eats slugs or snails, then yes, you should be using those once a month all the time. There's a cost to that. It's going to cost somewhere between 10 and 20 euros a month, depending on what size your dog is. So it's not a cheap problem to prevent. But if you've witnessed a dog dying from brain hemorrhage, as I have, because of lungworm, then it seems like money well spent if that problem can be prevented. If your dog never eats slugs or snails, and if your dog doesn't spend time outside, so you know it can't go chewing grass where it might swallow small slugs and snails, then the risk will be a minimum, and so perhaps you don't need to worry. But it is a case of assessing your dog, deciding what sort of lifestyle your dog has, what sort of risk is there, and then using the appropriate products. And if you're not sure about that, then you should talk to your vet. Your vet will know, you know, the questions to ask you, and then will be able to recommend the best wormer for your particular pet. Okay, I'm going to answer some questions now that are coming in.
Okay, so on the topic of worms, so Mary wants to know, how often should you worm dose a dog?
Okay, well, that's what we've been talking about. So it does depend on the individual dog, but in general, on average, let me give you 3 situations. First situation is somebody whose dog spends a lot of time in the garden, is probably eating a few slugs and snails when it's season. It's probably chewing grass and swallowing slugs and snails when it does that. That dog will be at risk from lungworm. So that dog should be given a particular type of wormer once a month for their entire life. And you have to, it's the only products that are effective against lungworm are prescription-only products. So you do need to talk to your vet about that. Now, the good news, I guess, is that once-a-month dose against lungworm will also be very effective against roundworm as well. So if you just do that, that generally will be sufficient. So that's that particular dog. Another dog might be a dog that lives in an apartment. It doesn't really go outside much at all. When it goes outside, it's just going with the owner to the park where it goes for a run around. So the dog never eats slugs or snails. And this dog is a family dog, so it shares a house with a couple of kids under the age of 10 as well as a couple of adults. Well, that dog should be wormed every 3 months against using a product that treats against roundworm to make sure the dog doesn't carry roundworms that could affect the children. So every 3 months with a good quality broad spectrum wormer is that dog's answer. Now, the third dog I'm going to talk about belongs to an elderly couple who they live on their own with this dog, and again they walk it to the park. The dog doesn't spend time outside in the garden by itself at all. So that dog, the risk of the dog passing on worms to humans would be small because there's just healthy adults there. There's no young children, so that dog, you could get away with a worm dose just once a year using a broad spectrum wormer. So you can see with those 3 examples how it varies very much. Once a month for some dogs, once a year for others perhaps. And that's why it's really helpful to talk to your vet about what's appropriate for your pet, so that you can avoid risk to animals and you can avoid risk to humans as well. Okay?
So David writes in, my dog has quite a large growth on the top of her head. She's a mongrel. She doesn't seem to be in pain with it, and she is 18 years in age. So is this just an age spot?
Well, do you know, it really depends on what the lump is like. It's really common in older dogs to get benign skin tumours called sebaceous adenomas, and they can be very small, as in like about 3 millimeters diameter, or they can be quite big, maybe the size of a thumbnail. Sebaceous adenomas, they grow gradually. They don't cause any problem for a long time, but then eventually, often what happens is the surface of them kind of ulcerates and gets a bit scabby, and sometimes they start to bleed, sometimes they get itchy, they start to bother the dog. So at that stage then these little lumps need to be removed. But if it's just a little lump sitting there, not growing fast, just looking a little bit ugly perhaps, then really there's no need for you to do anything. If in doubt, you should certainly talk to your vet about it and they'll give you advice.
Okay, so somebody wants to know what actually causes fleas.
What causes fleas? Well, fleas are parasites, so they're a bit like ants. So just like an ant wanders around the countryside looking for stuff to eat, and in the case of an ant, stuff means organic debris like food or vegetation. Well, as far as fleas are concerned, they wander around the place looking for blood because they feed on blood, and they have to get blood from animals. So that means that fleas can only live on animals. So that means that every different species has got a different kind of flea. There's dog fleas, cat fleas, hedgehog fleas, and they're kind of interchangeable. They can all infect all three species. So as far as your dog's concerned, your dog will pick up fleas if it comes across fleas. So it might meet another dog or a cat or even a hedgehog, and fleas will hop from the other animal onto your dog. And the same applies to cats. Now, in Ireland, it's sufficiently cool in the winter time that fleas can't breed outside. So we still get problems with fleas because your dog could still meet another dog, come back with fleas. Fleas could then hop off the dog into your house, and then they could breed inside your house because it's warm because of central heating. So it's one thing in the winter. In the summertime, it's worse again, though, because fleas can breed outside. So your dog doesn't even need to meet another dog to get fleas. They just go where another dog has been. And the fleas will have hopped off the other dog, laid their eggs. The eggs will hatch out into young fleas. They'll hop onto your dog. So fleas are quite a big issue in the summer months. Now, the good news about fleas is that it's really easy to prevent them these days. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. I suppose the way that's become most widely accepted would be a spot-on product, like a little liquid in a vial that you squeeze into the back of the neck. But I would stress to you that these vary hugely in how effective they are. So you can buy some from a pet shop or supermarket, which are just herbal drops. And if you read the fine print, it just says helps to repel fleas, which is very, very different to killing fleas. So, if you have a flea problem, you need to use a product that actually kills fleas. So you can use spot-on products, yes. You can also, there's a tablet you can get, and one tablet will kill fleas for up to 3 months, and that's really convenient. So you just need to give a tablet every 3 months. You can also get sprays that have a long-lasting effect, and there are still other products available like flea collars and even shampoos. So lots of different ways of controlling fleas. The most important thing about fleas to remember is that you can't just treat the animal, you also have to treat the environment. So if you just treat your dog for fleas, fleas will be in your dog's bed. So when you finish the treatment, your dog goes to bed, they're going to pick up some more fleas. So it's really important that you treat the environment as well as treating the dog. And that means generally using a spray for the bedding as well. And the spray will kill all the fleas in the bed. And then also, the best sprays leave a residue which stops flea eggs from hatching out. Now, as you can gather, it's all quite kind of complicated, this stuff, and that's why at the risk of sounding like I'm always saying go to the vet, if you have a flea problem, you're going to get solved most rapidly if you do ask your vet clinic for advice, for two reasons. First of all, vets and veterinary staff, they know about fleas, so they know what you need to do to control the problem. But the second thing is that the vets are also able to stock the latest and best flea control products, which often haven't filtered their way down to be widely available in pet shops and supermarkets. So that's the two reasons why it's best to go to your vet if you want to control fleas most effectively. Okay, hope that helps.
Okay, so this comes in from Tommy. So we're looking for a new family dog and are considering a golden retriever, as their nature tends to work well with autistic children and our middle child, who's age 5. Is there any other recommendations we should consider as more suitable, or other than hip score and eye cert, is there anything to watch out for with retrievers?
It's good that you're looking at hip cert and eye cert. It also makes sure that the parents of any golden retriever have had their elbows checked, x-rayed as well, to make sure they've got healthy elbows. But probably almost as or more important than those things, make sure that you meet both the parents, because temperament is highly inheritable, and you want to make sure that both parent dogs are good-natured, easygoing animals, and if they are, it's much more likely that the puppy will be. And I'd also make sure that the puppy has been well socialised from a young age. So you want to get a puppy that's been reared in an environment where there's young children, and so they're used to young children, so then they're going to adapt much better to your own home. That's if you're going to get the golden retriever. But I'd often be saying to people these days, I wouldn't really be so hung up on choosing a pedigree breed. I'd be more likely to say to you, go to a good dog rescue centre and have a look at the range of animals that they have. And you'll often find that a rescue dog is way better for you than choosing a pedigree dog. Most places these days have got a number of animals looking for homes, so you can find one that you really like and that really likes you, and that often works out really well. It's good value as well. If you go to a website called rescueanimals.ireland.ie, Rescue Animals Ireland, you'll find a whole bunch of links to animal rescues all around the country, and that's a good place to start, to find somewhere that's handy to you, that has pets that you can go and look at. Okay,
so this is the final question from Clodagh. So we have a little rescue dog for the last 4 years. He's a cross between a Border Terrier and a Fox Terrier. We roughly think he's about 6 years old. He's a very good-natured dog and no trouble to us. The thing is that he's not neutered, and as soon as the door opens, he runs away, presumably to find a girlfriend. We were wondering, is it too late to get him neutered, and would it change his really nice temperament?
So first of all, it's not too late to get him neutered. I've seen an 11-year-old dog who was doing exactly what your dog is doing. He was neutered and immediately he stopped wanting to run away. So if you remove male hormones at any time in a dog's life, it does have a strong effect at stopping them wanting to stray. Now, the only possibility that I'd be a bit concerned about is that if a dog has just learned the pleasures of freedom generally, they may still want to run off just because they like running around, but they won't be nearly as driven to do it once they've been neutered. Will it change his personality? Not really at all. What neutering does is it removes the male components of his personality. So things like it make him a little bit less assertive, it would stop him cocking his leg and things, stop him humping things, stop him wanting to wander off. But his fundamental personality would remain exactly the same, and I wouldn't have any concerns about that. Okay, so we're done for today. I'll be back again next Thursday. So any more questions, get back to me next week and I'll talk to you then. Thanks very much.